Welcome back, learners. This week we have been discussing from Block 3, Unit 2, Education and Training of the Tribals. In this session, we are going to discuss about the education and training of the tribals. The theme of education and training of disadvantaged groups is high in the agenda in many countries because it is related to much wider phenomenon, growing deprivation and social exclusion. The scheduled tribes are the most marginalized sections of the society. Therefore, to assess their socio-economic development, there is an imperative need to provide more employment avenues and income generation opportunities. On November 4, in the year 2009, in his speech at the inaugural session of the Conference of Chief Ministers, State Ministers for Tribal Development and Social Welfare Departments and State Ministers of Forest Departments, New Delhi, the then Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, underlined the importance of skill development mission by stating that the skill development mission needs to take a special look on enhancing the skill development training in all tribal areas of the country. Hackett distinguishes between training and education. Training is particularly skill upgradation in specific work, whereas education is seen as a more broadly based training for life. Training is a means of ensuring specific tasks which are carried out in accordance with a predetermined procedure, and education is intended to open people's mind so that it enables them to work from first principles and question predetermined principles. So, in spite of such differences, there is always a close relationship between training and education. Now, let us look at the importance of training. The significance and value of training has long been recognized. Training is a means of communicating new knowledge and skills and changing attitudes. It can raise awareness and provide people with the opportunity to explore their existing knowledge and skills. So, training can increase people's confidence, confirm to people the value of what they are already doing, and the training also enable people to pass on new skills to colleagues in the workplace, as well as training raise general awareness. It helps to change people's attitudes, and also training helps to improve the morale. So, training is a learning process that involves the acquisition of knowledge, sharpening of skills, concepts, rules, or changing of attitudes and behaviors in order to enhance the performance of employees. Now, let us look at the impact of training. It can be summarized in the following ways. The training helps in optimizing the utilization of human resource that further helps the employee to achieve the organizational goals as well as their individual goals. It also helps to provide an opportunity and broad structure for the development of human resources, technical and behavioral skills in an organization. The training also helps the employees in attaining personal growth. Training helps in increasing the job knowledge and skills of employees at each level. It helps to expand the horizons of human intellect and overall personality of the employees. The Government of India and different state governments have adopted number of schemes and provisions for the training of tribals. So, one such important scheme we can say the Vocational Training Center, which has been established for the tribals, with the objective of developing the skills among tribal youth for a variety of jobs as well as self-employment, and to improve their socio-economic condition by enhancing their income. The Government of India introduced the establishment of Vocational Training Center in the tribal areas in 1992 to 93. It was revised in the year 1994 and is being implemented through the state governments and union territories, institutions, organizations set up by the government as autonomous bodies, educational and other institutions like local bodies, cooperative societies and non-governmental organizations registered under the Societies Registration Act 1960. The scheme is implemented for the benefit of the scheduled tribes as well as for the particularly vulnerable tribal groups and can be taken up anywhere in the country, but priority will be given to remote tribal areas, areas inhabited by particularly vulnerable tribal, by particularly remote tribal areas, areas inhabited by particularly vulnerable tribes and areas affected by extremist activities. It aims at upgrading the skills of the tribal youth in various traditional, modern vocations depending upon their educational qualification, present economic trends and the market potential, which would enable them to gain suitable employment or to become self-employed. Under this scheme, the training for trades including modern trades having employment potential in the region is provided. Another important development in relation to the scheme is the 33% reservation of seats for tribal girls. Keeping in view the limited potential of even skilled persons in an interior area, each ST boy or girl is trained in 2 trades of his or her choice. Each course is of 3 months duration. The course content, syllabus for a particular trade will be finalized by the organization in consultation with the local ITIs, polytechnics and etc. Each trainee is to be attached at the end of 6 months to a master craftsman in a semi-urban or urban area for a period of 6 months to learn his or her skills by practical experience. The organizations establish linkages with recognized institutions which can provide a certificate diploma to the candidates for the trades in which they have been trained. The organization should establish linkages with placement services and for the candidates who are interested in self-employment. After availing the training, the organization shall arrange easy microfinance loans for them through financial institutions such as National Scheduled Tribe Finance Development Corporation, banks and etc. The preference is given to those institutions which guarantee placement, employment after completion of training. Under the scheme of vocational training, grants will be available for organizing vocational trainings in recognized institutes or in vocational training centers subject to terms and conditions revised from time to time of the scheme. Now let us look at another important scheme, that is the training for aged tribals. The Tribal Welfare Association, an independent and secular organization registered in 1984 under the Tamil Nadu Societies Registration Act of 1975, has been focusing much of the capacity building aspect of tribal world. It is concerned about the skill development of the tribal youth and women, which will provide them the alternative skills to supplement and augment their income and employment and to fulfill the community needs with locally available raw materials and human resources towards optimum use. Some of the important skill training programs in equipping tribal youth and women are tailoring, typewriting, motor rewinding, ecological farming, car driving, milk dairy for women, cooperative management. So after the completion of skill training programs, trainees are provided with financial assistance as loan with subsidy and grants from Tamil Nadu Welfare Association, nationalized banks and the government. Now another important scheme is the community polytechnics. This scheme has been operation in selected diploma level institutions since 78 and 79. It provides platform for transfer of appropriate technologies to rural masses and local communities. The preference is given in training to rural tribal youth and helps them to obtain need-based gainful employment. It applies science and technology through skill-oriented non-formal training, technology transfer and technical support services. In addition to this, The government has also introduced the scheme of coaching for the STs during the fourth plan period. The objective of the scheme is to help to those tribals who are coming from deprived families and disadvantaged environment, who find it difficult to compete with those coming from a socially and economically advantageous background. The main objective of the scheme is to develop skills among tribals through special coaching in the related area that will create a better chance to succeed in competitive examinations. Guided by this understanding, the government has introduced pre-examination coaching centers run by state governments, universities, registered private institutions, etc. These institutions impart coaching on different courses such as civil service examination, state civil service examination, entrance examination for medical, engineering, MBA and other professional courses, other examinations conducted by Union Public Service Commissions, Staff Selection Commission exam, General Insurance Corporation and etc. The scheme of free coaching for STs has been in operation since the 6th 5-year plan and provides free coaching to ST students to enhance their competitive capabilities to face various competitive examinations. The coaching is provided through state governments, universities, NGOs, private coaching institutes for competitive examinations of Group A and Group B categories in the central as well as in the state governments, officers grade examinations for PSUs, banks and so on, and soft skill development programs for employment in private sector covering various areas like call centers, BPO, retail management, information technology and so on. Apart from coaching fee, stipend is also provided to the students, that is 1500 per month for outstation students and 750 per month for local students. The income ceiling under the scheme is 2 lakhs per annum. So the need for vocational institution in tribal belts where left-wing extremism rising felt for large scale of employment of tribal youth. The extremism is the manifestation of frustration and lack of faith in the present development. It is necessary that both state and central government should make efforts weaning away the tribal youths from disruptive activities. Hence, one of the major efforts is to establish such vocational training institutes for large-scale employment of unemployed tribal youths. Now let us look at another important scheme for the development of primitive tribal groups. Under this scheme, 10% assistance is given to integrated tribal development projects, tribal research institutes and non-governmental organizations for undertaking activities such as generation of awareness, confidence building, training for the skill development of tribal youth organizations, of self-help groups and provision of services inputs which are not covered under any existing schemes for the development and welfare of primitive tribal groups. This is a new scheme launched during the year 1998 to 99. Another important scheme is the scheme of vocational training for the tribals. Under the scheme of vocational training in tribal areas, the proposals for the year 2011-12 are invited from the state governments, union territory administrations. The proposals are also invited from institutions or organizations set up by government as autonomous bodies, educational and other institutions like local bodies and cooperative societies and non-governmental organizations, etc., through respective state level committees. Another scheme is the coaching for scheduled tribes. Under this scheme, free coaching classes are provided to ST students to enhance their skill and capabilities for various competitive examinations so that they can compete with mainstream students in all competitive examinations. Another important scheme already we have discussed, the Vocational Training Center in tribal areas. The main aim of the scheme is to develop the skill of scheduled tribe students depending on their qualification and present market trends. This vocational training would enable them to get suitable employment or enable them to become self-sufficient. There are also other programs for training in the job for the tribal people. In order to make increased employment facilities for scheduled tribe students, employment training centers have been established for the benefits under the employment authorities. The trainees are being given stipend. The materials required for training purposes is also given to them. Then there are also pre-examination training centers for the tribal people. For training candidates for appointment to the vacancies notified by the Union Public Service Commission, banks and other institutions of public sector, pre-examination training centers are functioning in various cities. The candidates are given monthly stipend for this training. Then moving on to the technical training which are given by the private institutes. The monthly fee concessions and stipend are made available for scheduled tribe candidates who are studying in private institutes giving technical training courses. To conclude, we can say that the issue of development of indigenous populations across the world is slowly assuming significance. It assumes greater importance with the United Nations General Assembly adopting on September 13, 2007, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People by a majority of 144 states in favor. There continues to be a need for a framework on how we can measure the progress of tribal population. How can they be integrated into the mainstream development process, even as their culture and environment is kept secure, and how to measure government supported social welfare programs in general. So the tribal education and training are the key to bridge the gap between tribals and the mainstream. In order to do this, Government of India and state governments have designed and implemented several tailor-made schemes and striving for the development of tribal population. So learners, let us sum up what we have discussed in this session. So in this session, we have discussed the importance of education and training to the scheduled tribes. We also discussed the impact of training and also what are the schemes and programs implemented by the government. We have also seen what are the provisions made by the Government of India and by different state governments for training the tribals. Thank you.